Be sure to check out our sponsor, the War for the Tower podcast. Also, Jeff Richardson does Shattered Worlds RPG, an RPG that he invented, and an arts and interview show called Everything is Awesome. You can find all of them by searching War for the Tower, Shattered Worlds, or Everything is Awesome on your podcatcher. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from some year. Call in with your requests at some point, probably not now. In this episode, we are covering chapters 12 and 13, Daenerys and Jon. And in both these chapters, as Rashawn so aptly pointed out before we began, we're arriving at places where there is nobody left. Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So, these two chapters, as you say, are... Oh, what could have happened to the people here? We know that there are no whites, or so we think, in the desert where Daenerys is. What do you think happened in this city that she finds?
I don't know.
Took you a long time to get that one out.
I don't know. I was trying to recall if we had this in the show. Spoiler alert, I do not recall. But I don't remember this, which doesn't really mean a lot.
I don't think that we do this on the show. If I recall, they go through the desert and they go straight to wherever the next stop is.
That's kind of how I remembered it, like a very long, arduous trip through the desert. And then they finally get to, I don't know if it's Karth or Quarth, but they finally get there, and then that's when her action picks up for the season. Using action very, very loosely, if I remember how that went.
Yeah.
But I don't, I don't know. I can't tell how long this place has been abandoned. I don't have a good grasp of where they are located geographically. Mm-hmm. And...
Don't you have a map in your book? I thought you were so excited about that.
Oh, that's true.
I'm not asking you to raise a storm of pages.
Nope, that's what you get.
That's the title.
A storm of pages. So
I don't pay her to laugh, guys. That's just how she is.
It's true. Very easy. Yeah, you know what? This
no book?
This map ain't helping me.
You are thunking like a motherfucker.
Listen, I'm on a mission right now. No, this map is not helping me.
All right. Well, I think, Karth is where she winds up right away in the show. And Austin Arminio sent notes again on this, and he says a couple things that I'm not going to say because they're a little bit spoilery, mild spoilers, like just how many chapters there are and stuff. But he mentions that in season 2, they just had Dany standing around screaming about her dragons.
That's true. I remember that. Where are my dragons?
And Zaro Zondaxos is the one who shows up at the end here. But in the show, he is talking to them over the wall of Karth, I think. Don't they have to sort of pry their way in.
Yeah, in the show, the representatives come out through the big gates and meets Dany and her people outside of the city, and they're all discussing whether they should let her in. And he ends up being the one that vouches for her, I guess, and takes responsibility for her, and that's how they get into the city. So this place where they are, there's one line towards the end. She has sent her riders out to kind of like figure out which fucking way they should go next. And one of them comes back and claims to have ridden his horse right through the bones of some animal that he claims must have been a dragon as well.
Right, through the mouth.
Right. So that made me for a second think, like, is this place old enough that dragons came here and just, ruined everything? But the way she describes the city, it doesn't sound like this is a place that's been burnt. It's just old and crumbling and abandoned. So that kind of flew out the window for that theory. I don't know.
I'll be honest, a big part of me, like, reading this again and knowing how everything goes so far in the story, I wish Dany had just, like, put down roots here and reestablished the city and stayed. For a second, I felt like, especially because there's a moment, too, where she starts having them pull up some of the slabs of stone because there's grass that's been growing through the cracks, and she thinks to herself, we can just pull this up, and we have enough water, we could fill the whole plaza with grass. And I thought the same thing. I was like, girl, just sit down here. Just sit down. But alas, that is not what's going to happen. Alas and alack. But yeah, I'm getting ahead of us. So this chapter starts off with the Dothraki named the comet Shiarak Kia, the Bleeding Star. The old men muttered that it omened ill, but Daenerys Targaryen had seen it first on the night she had burned Khal Drogo, the night her dragons had awakened. It is the herald of my coming, she told herself as she gazed up into the night with wonder in her heart. The gods have sent it to show me the way. So again, with the everybody thinks that this comet was sent specifically for them. Specifically for them,
with very specific messages and meanings and what you should do because of it. She is using it as a guide to show which way that they should travel. And it turns out that it's not just that she's following the comet, because for a second I was just like, wait a minute, you going to do what now? But she also has some counsel with Jorah, and it's really, there's not a lot of options for directions, because their little group is so small and so weak and there are, these other cows out now, the old Blood Riders who are now leading their own cows are out there, and they're dangerous. And there's a moment where she's just like, oh no, he would never hurt me. And Jorah has to be like, okay, first of all, he would kill you immediately. And he would most certainly steal your dragon.
To be honest, at how quick she was to be like, oh, I don't have anything to worry about with him. I'm like, you were abandoned. Why do you think he would ever give a shit what happens to you?
Yeah. I think for, it's funny. It's a moment of, because this is what happens when you get to enjoy a place of power, right? Where people treat you a certain way because of the position that you hold. But if you are in that position long enough, you start to think people are just treating you that way because you're like special and you're just great, or either that person is just so nice or whatever, right? So for like a split second, she was just like, oh no, they all love me, I'm great.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think that's exactly what was happening there. And I also think that probably the way that like the remainder of the Khalas are bending to her when they saw her dragons, that maybe she thinks that will have the same effect on everybody. Right. And Jorah has to be like, look, they saw you birth them, and I'm sure that's the thing that inspires great.
Yeah,
they all, but
they saw you walk through fire,
right? That as well. But anybody else who sees them is just going to see those are fucking worth so much money, and they're very small. Let me just take those.
Yeah, yeah.
And
you
she gets
wouldn't
very
be able,
defensive immediately.
She wouldn't be able to, she would not be able to do anything to stop someone from taking them right off of her shoulders if they wanted to, right? And her reaction is so strong because, of course, it is, but also it's like it's that thing when you love something so fiercely that you think just by sheer will you could prevent a thing from happening, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Even though in reality there's not anything you could do about it. But she is just like, I would never let anyone take them from me. And yeah, no, you wouldn't let them, but you wouldn't be able to stop them. And it's a real moment, like a real reality check.
You'd be alive.
Basically, that's like the sense of it, right?
Yep.
And Jorah has to just be like, look, I love you. I personally think that you are the mother of dragons, you know, but I can't really say what those other folks would think of you.
Yeah.
So they're going in this way because there's not another way for them to go. And it just so happens to also be the way the comet is pointing. So she feels kind of like it's a sign. But even without the comet, they kind of have to go this way.
Yeah, this, I'm making fun of everybody for thinking that the comet is for them, but if it's for anybody, it feels like it's for Daenerys. I mean, she brought back to life eggs that everybody thought were dead, and dragons are back after they haven't been seen for like 100 years.
She's definitely the most impressive, you know, so far. This comet, I'm
willing to give her this one.
Yeah, I mean, if bringing back dragons after thousands of years doesn't warrant a comment, sorry about that, I hit the mic, then I don't know what does.
Thousands. I don't think it's been quite that long.
Has it not been? Since the last, yeah, you're right. It's probably been a couple hundred years, a couple generations since the last ones.
Yeah.
Or at least since the last ones died. I don't know how long it's been since new ones were born.
I'm going to Google this because I'm sure somebody out there has an answer.
500 or 600 years?
I don't even think it's that long. The Targaryens kept dragons in Westeros for approximately 150 years after the dragons died. How much time had passed between... Oh, no, this is not right. Nah, nobody's giving me a quick answer. Never mind. Somebody who's listening, though, can tell us. So, yeah, this... I was listening to these chapters while I was taking a walk today. And, it's July in Texas. It was in the 90s. It could be hotter, honestly. But I really felt every step of this incredibly painful, hot, dry journey. Although here it's very humid. You feel like you could drink the air. So that doesn't have quite the same effect. And it's always funny, too. When I go for walks here in the heat, at first... when it's in the low 90s, I'm always like, oh, it's not that bad. Okay. And I get, like, halfway through the walk, and suddenly I'm like, oh, my God, this was a mistake. And then I get another quarter of the way through, and I just really am like, maybe I should just call Owen and ask him to pick me up half a block from the house. Maybe that's where I'm at. And I finally will reach the house, and I'll have sweated so much that once I step into the AC, it does feel good, but I begin to shiver right away because I'm, like, wet. But, yeah, this whole journey is grueling. It's really, really rough. A lot of people die.
Yeah, it starts off at first just kind of like, oh, we lost an old man. Mm-hmm. And then they lose a baby. And then people and horses are just dropping.
Yep.
And there's nothing to be done. And then it gets, and then Doria gets sick.
Yeah.
And this is a moment where I was unprepared for, like, the emotionality of it. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole thing where Dany stays with her and holds her hand and, like, tries to keep her cool until she finally passes away. And then after that, the whole rest of the thing is just... A little relentless, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was.
And the only thing, then there's a couple of things to like break up, like just the horror of this journey. She tells us a little bit about learning that the dragons will only eat the meat if it's cooked. Because she remembers something that Viserys had said to her when they were kids. And
I did not remember this. This is in the show, I'm pretty sure, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't think I remember that either. She tells us about the naming of the 3 dragons, which we didn't have the names before, so this is pretty important. And you know what? Like, a part of my brain knew that she had named Viserion after her brother. But there was a bigger part of my brain that had decided that she hadn't.
Because it's such a fucking ridiculous thing to do.
Right?
It sucked so incredibly
It's not
badly.
just... Okay, it's not just me then, right? Okay.
No. This man was a would-be incestuous rapist. He doesn't deserve to have a fucking dragon named after him, Daenerys.
Yet he was my brother still. His dragon will do what he could not. And I'm just like...
Will it?
What did the dragon do to deserve that?
Right?
These fucking characters and naming their kids after Snape. I don't get it. Oh, sorry, wrong book.
Ooh. Yeah, he would have played a good young Snape, actually. The actor who plays...
It's actually, he would have.
You know? But yeah, so it's Rhaegal, Drogon, and Viserion. After her brother, and her lover, husband. I hesitate to call him husband.
Why would you call him husband?
Because it's just like the whole thing was so gross with the two of them that I feel really weird about giving it that dignity. You know? It's just, I don't know. Anyway. Also, there's a brother, lover. They rhyme more.
Oh my god.
Did you see, and this is a patented, unspoiled tangent. Did you see that Vax That Ass Up?
I did not.
All right. Well, I shared it on my Facebook, and you should definitely watch that. Sorry, just thinking about rhymes and that rhymes that are not that good. But it is the complete remix is the wrong one. What do you call it?
Reimagining?
I guess reimagining of Back That Ass Up, except it's Vax That Ass Up.
Who was behind this?
I don't know who was behind it, but it's all the original artists. And it's a whole music video.
What?
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a joke parody thing.
No, it is not a TikTok. It is not. It is a genuine... Yep.
That was a Juvenile song.
Yep.
Juvenile's doing like a PSA for the vaccine. Is that what you're telling me right now?
He's out there.
Girl.
Yep.
All right. Note to self.
Let me tell you, the comments were not kind.
Oh, no.
I deeply enjoyed it from beginning to end. But, yeah. You're a fine-looking brother once you vax that ass up.
Oh, no.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. But that was the best thing to come out of COVID.
Who? Why? Who okayed that? See? Mm-mm. All right. Okay. Let me regroup. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can come back from that.
Okay, so wait. Here it is. Let's see. Her handmaids garbed her in the skin of the Hrokkar Drogo had slain, the white lion of the Dothraki Sea. Its fearsome head made a hood to cover her naked scalp, its pelt a cloak that flowed across her shoulders and down her back. The cream-colored dragon sunk sharp black claws into the lion's mane and coiled its tail around her arm, while Ser Jorah took his accustomed place by her side. Remind me, but she does not have this incredibly badass garment, does she?
Why does she not have this in the show? This
it
is
bums me
bananas. this visual is amazing. I can't believe they didn't want to do it in the show. I cannot imagine why, except maybe they just didn't want her covered up. They wanted her half naked all the time. I don't know. But this is fucking amazing, and I am disgusted I didn't get to see it.
Mm-hmm. I suspect that they were trying to slow down her transition into looking like a badass, but I think that was not a good call.
That's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find where you were reading because I wanted to make sure I didn't jump too far ahead. There it is. I got
164, I think.
So this is so now people will start going. People start dropping, and where we at? Oh, people. I'm sorry. People start in her. I guess it's her cowl, even though it's very small.
Khalasar.
The
cowl is the ruler.
The person. People are starting to get a little antsy.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to feel like she doesn't really know what she's doing. Maybe they shouldn't have followed her out here.
Yeah. Understandably.
They think that following this comment was a really bad idea, that maybe it's leading them to hell, because it's evil. And she is starting to wonder to Ser Jorah, are we fucking lost?
Yeah.
Does this thing ever fucking end? And he admits that, yeah, there are things on the other side. There's these other cities, but I don't know if we're going to make it, because this is way worse than I had even thought it would be.
Yeah.
And,
which I did appreciate him admitting that.
Yeah, but imagine, it's way too late now.
Mm-hmm.
And he even says, I can't promise what will happen going forward, but I know what will happen if we go to fuck back. So that's not on the table. And it's there's really nothing she can do but keep moving in this same direction, which seems at the time, feels like it's not a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really hard to keep pushing forward through something that is just insufferable,
Yeah.
And it's either that or just stop in the tracks and let everybody run off on their own, and hope for the fucking best.
Mm-hmm.
So they really don't have any other choice. And he even admits that, he hasn't really, he hasn't been out this far before, because when they come across with the city, well, somebody comes back, I think. One of the scouts comes back and says that he sees a city ahead, and she wants to know if Ser Jorah knows what it is, what city it is. And he's like, yeah, I've never been this far out here.
Yeah.
I don't know. And yeah, they show up, and it's this completely abandoned small city.
Mm-hmm. White walls. Everything is white, she says, and it's just sort of odd to her, having not seen a place like this. She's like, did they not know about colors? Is that what was going on here?
Yeah, none of the buildings have windows. I don't know what to make of this place.
Yeah, it's what frustrates me so much is that they were all about to drop dead. And even still, her fucking handmaidens are this place is haunted, but you can't stay here. And I'm like, bitch, what the fuck are you talking about? You were about to drop dead. One of you is already dead, Dorea. Yeah, deal with a ghost. Deal with it. Just shut up.
It's funny how intense our most primal instincts or whatever can be.
Mm-hmm.
That even in these dire circumstances, people are still yeah, we would really rather not go in there. Call it superstitious or whatever. But it's really just a bad case of the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
And people are yeah, we would rather just stay out in the desert and die.
I just wanted her to be all right, fine, stay there. We're going to go inside and we're going to have a bath and we're going to order a pizza. So if you want to just chill out here.
One of her dragons hisses when they like get up close to something in here, like when they're on their way in through the gates or something. Mm-hmm. And that, more than her handmaidens being like, "Ooh, it's haunted," that hiss made me go, because it just has more weight for me for some reason.
Because it's animal instinct.
I think so, maybe.
You're like those people who are like, my dog doesn't like you, I don't like you.
Listen, the dogs are never wrong. The dogs are never wrong.
I don't know if that's true. I'm really curious
They're
to
never
hear,
wrong.
guys. Do y'all have an example?
They are never wrong.
I feel like I read something recently where the dog was wrong, and it was like a really nice fake out, because usually that's used the other way, where nobody else is listening to the fact that this person's bad news, but the dog can tell, and you're just like, doesn't anybody see? The dog just sneered at him. All of you start to sneer too. But in this, whatever I was reading, the dog liked him, and it made me go, okay, maybe he's fine. And then he turned out to be a psychopath. And I was like, God damn it. The dog. I was trusting the dog. I thought he knew what he was doing. Nope.
I don't know how good the dogs are with sniffing out if somebody is really good at hiding that they're an asshole. So I don't know if my feeling is that if the dog likes you, I like you. But my feeling is definitely if the dog doesn't like you, I can't fuck with you.
Okay. Okay, fair. I think that's a good line to draw. Difference between those things. So, yeah, there's like some gardens that have been abandoned, and there's fruit still growing here. Like, they have a well full of clean, cold water, which in this place, I really wonder how far they had to fucking dig to get access to that. That's crazy.
And there's not like a lot of alternatives around. So whoever was here has managed to set up what seems to be a sustainable little community in the middle of a whole bunch of nothing the fuck else is happening. And yet it's completely abandoned. And I don't know if maybe, like, it seems like it's isolated enough that maybe some type of illness struck. But, and then I don't know what kind of evidence would be left behind depending on how much time has passed, which I have no idea about how much time has passed.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The illness is an interesting angle. I like that. There
doesn't seem, if I'm not mistaken, there is no mention of any kind of remains being found anywhere, right?
Oh, no, they find some.
Do they? Oh, they find a bunch of skulls that are unburied and bleached and broken.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is part of why her ladies are like, we shouldn't be here.
So, unbleached.
Let's see. Nameless and godless we found at the gates broken, only wind and flies moving through the street. They saw, oh, here it is. They rode past heaps of sun-washed rubble. Elsewhere they saw the faded scars of fire. I didn't remember that.
So there was a little fire. But
yeah, but it could just be like the fire of somebody coming in and invading. They found bones, too. The skulls of the unburied dead, bleached and broken.
So to be bleached, well, they are in the desert, though, so I guess it doesn't probably take that much time for that to happen. But sometime, unless there's, like, actual fire involved. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to make of this. And I don't... Do we find out, or do they just leave and go to Karth and we never find out what this was?
Do you really want me to tell you that?
Well, is it important to the plot?
No. Not so far.
All right, well, then don't tell me. Don't tell me. Okay. If they're going to tell me what happened, don't tell me.
Okay.
If they're not going to tell me what happened, then tell me.
They don't tell us.
Aww.
The theory that because I went online and tried to see what theories there were out there, and the prevailing theory seems to be that the Dothraki probably came in here and just completely laid waste to the place. So,
there's, I guess. Yeah.
All right.
I guess.
I mean, I personally like your illness theory. It's just a little bit more interesting. The Dothraki came in. It's just sort of like, yeah, well, you know.
I mean, because the reason why I bristled a little bit at that is only because, I mean, like, we know the Dothraki hordes could do a thing like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
for sure,
there's a bit when they're discussing about ways to go and where they can travel, and one of the things that they say is they don't go one way because the lands of the landmen, who are mostly like peaceful, just would like not have any interest in helping out her and her Dothraki people.
They're the ones that they went in and raided.
Exactly. So
yeah.
what I'm saying is, like, to completely, like, take out everybody, I guess they could, like, just slave everybody they didn't kill.
Mm-hmm. That's what they do, usually.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know why I'm struggling with the idea of an entire place going. But, yeah, I guess they could absolutely do that.
I think that if they were to do that and a place rebuilds, that tends to happen because they are not as isolated as this place is. But I could see some place that's this far out and doesn't seem connected to anywhere else. You know, there's a lot higher likelihood of these people getting captured and taken, and nobody ever finds out about this little, you know, nothing town. I'm sure that they probably thought this huge desert was enough to keep them safe. Although, you know, Karth is apparently not that far away from another direction, but I don't know if the Dothraki go in that route very often. Yeah,
it takes the one rider a pretty long time to get there and get back from Karth. So so that's where they are, and it's a nice little place to hunker down. There's fruit, there's clean water, there's a place to get clean and rest, and they start to, like, put on some weight. The horses start to look a little bit better. And
she learns how to feed the dragons while they're on the road, so they're beginning to get bigger.
And she sends out the 3 riders because she decides that, like, they're not going to keep doing this nonsense. They're not just going to keep walking blindly. And so she sends 3 out in 3 different directions to report back. And while they are waiting on that, is giving everybody sort of a chance to recover. And we get the story about Jorah's wife.
Yeah. What'd you think about this?
I mean, she doesn't sound great.
Like, he sounds not great.
Neither of them sound great. The whole thing, like, she's much younger than him. He sees her once and, like, has a fit of passion and is, like, enraptured with her, by her beauty, by everything. And he has this amazing day at the tournament where he is just, like, the best of everybody that whole day. Wins her favor. They get really drunk and celebratory, and then he proposes, and the marriage is okayed, and then they're married, and it's all a whirlwind.
Whirlwind is the exact right word.
And then he takes her home, and she is not built for this Bear Island life. It is like being like a debutante or some kind of society girl in New York City, and then, like, moving to Arkansas. No shade to Arkansas, but I'm just saying.
No, some shade to Arkansas. Definitely some.
You know, it's just a completely different speed. And she doesn't like it. And she's used to a much different lifestyle. And it's kind of like written in a way that's like, oh, she's really petty and insatiable and she's never satisfied. And she's like overly fixated on all these stupid, superficial, trinkets or whatever. Right. But this is just the life that she was born into, that she's been accustomed to, that she's expecting and has expected her entire life to like be maintained. Mm-hmm. And then for reasons no one can explain, she's married off to this man who cannot do any of these things. And it's not a secret, as far as I can understand, that he can't do these things. Like,
no, and Austin included in his notes that apparently she's like the 10th child and the youngest daughter, so marrying her off, it's not important for her to get allied to somebody powerful. She's just like, he has so many kids and he needs to get rid of some, and marry her, thank you, that's fine.
Oh, that's
because once you have that many daughters, it's not like 10 daughters, but once you have enough daughters, it just starts to become a dowry issue,
Oh, I was thinking because she was so lovely that she was, had a higher value, but I guess in this world that is not really what's important.
I mean, it is depending on your position, but yeah, with her, it was higher value to Jorah, but not to her father.
Right. So she ends up living this life where she is just incredibly dissatisfied, and we find out that the way he frames it anyway, he loves her so much that he just goes into insane debt to keep her happy. He is buying all the things, and they're taking all the trips, and they can't afford it.
Yep.
And eventually he starts... Does he say explicitly what his crime is at this point? I mean, we already know what it is.
I'm too ashamed to name, but we know that he...
Yeah, he starts selling slaves.
Yeah.
Right? Now, let me... he says that his father has already taken the black. And so now he's the Lord of Bear Island at this point while he's married. I don't know why I thought his father took the black because he ran off.
Because Jorah ran off?
Yeah.
No, I think it was because of them, like his family remaining loyal to the Targaryens.
Oh, okay.
And that was like his punishment once they lost, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. So, yeah, I have to make a note about that because I was really confused about that because I know the Mormonts are Northerners, and at least from the show anyway. And they are loyal to the Starks in the show. So I was confused.
Yeah, I don't remember how this goes. Again, if Austin wants to chime in, or if anybody else would like to. I don't think it matters that much in the end.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah. What I kind of think of with this story, now that time has passed and I've started to learn a little bit more about... so I've talked before about the Am I the Asshole subreddit, and how frequently the posts from men are like, I shit in the living room every day and my girlfriend doesn't like it. Am I the asshole? And then it will always end with people saying, yes, indeed you are. And he'll go, okay, well, I'll cut back to shitting once a week instead of doing it every day like I've been doing. And it's just it's so not enough. And meanwhile, women are like, am I the asshole for being mad that my husband shits in the living room every day? But one of the other constants in that subreddit is a guy being like, my girlfriend overreacted to XYZ. I think she's being really immature. Am I the asshole? And then you read the actual post, and it turns out that she is indeed 15 and he is 30. And he's somehow shocked that she is immature and not handling things well. And that is really what I see here with Jorah. You married a child who was just coming into the bloom of her beauty, who was in a place where she was just, up to her neck in social engagements and luxury. And you got the child you wanted. You didn't know that's what all came with it because you didn't want to think about the fact that she was fucking 15. But guess what? So I think that in like different forums, she has had a lot of shade thrown at her for her attitude. But I just can't help but think of who I was at 15 and being brought to some place that was so remote with no real comforts. And he describes the hall. It's a log hall with like an earthen palisade around it. It's not even stone, for God's sake, you know? I cannot be mad at her for being like, what? As they pull in, you know? And yeah, the fact that he's like spending all this money and she didn't want to sell her jewels and everything. Yeah, she's the kid in this situation, and I'm not really.
Yeah.
That's what you get, bruh.
And then when he goes to run from Ned's justice, he takes her with him, and they live off of the gold that he has from, his exploits, and Danette runs out. Then he starts to sell himself as a sellsword, and is shocked when she leaves him. He has her, the way they've written her out of the story is that she basically just went off to become some guy's mistress. Some rich guy's mistress. Which hits me two different ways, actually. One way is that, so you're just sealing the deal that she's just terrible, And that's what you're telling me here. Is that like the only thing that's ever mattered to her was money? The other part of me is just like, why would she want to keep having this raggedy life with you, though?
Right.
So I don't. It's a weird thing. Like I don't know what if we're supposed to feel anything by that, or if that's just like, are we supposed to feel sorry for Jorah, or is that supposed to be proof that she was always terrible because look, she just ended up being some guy's concubine? Or
personally, I see a little bit, and I think that maybe George R. R. Martin might have meant this, but he says something about how they say that even his wife goes in fear of her. Do you remember that? I feel like that's meant to be like, oh no, she's living her best life. She got to be the woman that gets lavished with everything and gets to like have some power, and she doesn't have to be put in the position of like being the lady of the house who's forced to bear his heirs and whatnot, because this is Jorah's second wife, and his first wife died trying to give him heirs. So personally, I see it as like a step up for her in a lot of ways.
I mean, I feel it's 100% a step up. I just wasn't sure if that was the intention. I wasn't unsure like what spirit it was being written in.
Yeah, I'm curious because like I took that line, even his wife goes in fear of her, as meant to be like, she's taking control of this situation, but it could be meant to be like, look at what a bitch she is. But I just didn't really read it that way.
Right.
And that could just be my bias because I'm thinking, well, good for her,
And then, of course, at the end of this all, we find out that Daenerys reminds him of his wife, that they look a little bit alike. And this is the moment where she realizes that he has feelings for her that are not just, in service to her as his queen, but are, as she says, like how a man feels about a woman. Right. And then she's just like, well, that could never happen. So instead, what I will give him, because I'm not giving him this, I'll give him back his home because he sounded so homesick,
Yeah.
So basically, like when I take back the throne, I will reinstate him and all, his house and all his whatever comes with your house, your standing, your lands, all that jazz.
Right.
But that's not what he is in this for, ma'am.
Yeah, she's I think she's a little bit mistaken there. But Yeah, so it ends with her sending off these men, and then the one returning and saying that there's just an ocean in that direction. Then Ago comes back. He had found the ruins of 2 more cities, smaller than Vestaloro, but otherwise the same. One was warded by a ring of skulls mounted on rusted iron spears, so he dared not enter.
Maybe
but he had.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said okay. Now that that sounds like Dothraki.
I don't know. Like, do they do that? Probably they do.
I don't think we know for a fact that they do that, but it fucking sounds like they would do that.
Yeah. He had explored the second for as long as he could. He showed Dany an iron bracelet he had found, set with an uncut fire opal the size of her thumb. There were scrolls as well, but they were dry and crumbling, and Ago had left them where they lay. And I'm like, I really wish you hadn't.
Me too.
Probably traveling on a horse, they would have just been dust by the time he got back. And then lastly, we have Jogo, and he takes so long that Daenerys is like, he did?
Yeah.
But then finally he comes out, and behind him rode 3 queerly garbed strangers atop ugly humped creatures that dwarfed any horse. So they are on a camel.
It's gotta be, right?
Gotta be. And one of them is Pyat Pri, a great warlock who has blue lips. And he speaks in Dothraki. The bald man with the jewels in his nose answers in the Valyrian of the Free Cities. I am Zaro Zondaxos of the 13, a merchant prince. The woman in the lacquered wooden mask said in the common tongue of the 7 kingdoms, I am Quaithe of the Shadow. We come seeking dragons. And she says, seek no more. You have found them. And that is the end of her chapter. So then we go to Jon. And similarly, they are exploring a deserted town.
Yeah. People are not where they're supposed to be. Where is everybody? What is happening to everyone? It's very ominous. This finding of like dead cities and sorry, I'm moving my mic. I don't know if I have or most of us ever have a situation where we encounter something that's like feels like it should be filled with people but is not. It's been a very long time since I've been anywhere around an abandoned house. I don't get down like that anymore.
Yeah.
But if you've ever, and even that in my experience is not comparable to what's being described because those are always still within cities, There were a few times down where my mom lived, where my grandmother lived, where it's so rural that you could just go miles and miles and miles without seeing anyone else around. You would find old homes, and they would mostly be really overgrown by the time I would see them. Right. But they were just houses that people had lived in. They moved, and the house wasn't demolished. It just slowly starts to recede back into nature. You don't see a lot of that in the city because places either don't stay empty that long or eventually they get knocked down and something else gets built. But out there, they just stand empty until they fall. Yeah. And that's a really, we would go and poke around them sometimes depending on how bad it was overgrown. But it's it's a weird thing to be like, oh, you can kind of see that was a living room and... You know what I mean? But still,
yeah.
It's just. But this level that's happening in these 2 chapters of it just being very obvious that people were here.
Yeah.
But now they're not. And where did they all go?
Yeah, the Daenerys one, there's a feeling of such distance from whenever it happened that staying and reestablishing doesn't feel like such a terrible idea because it's there's a sort of cleansing that has happened in the meantime with so much time passing. But white tree.
They was just there.
Recently,
they was just there. You can still smell dung, which is not a word that I like to say, even though it's nothing really wrong with it. But
it's just a word. It's just manure.
Ma's
it's
good.
Just a ma, and then a newer after it. It's very refreshing.
I was a thread. Somebody put a meme up like, you're on a first date. What name of TV show the person could say they liked that would immediately be like, that's it, no more dates. So many people in the thread was like Seinfeld. And then the other half were like The Simpsons. And I was just like, well, I don't even know why I'm in this group. What am I doing here?
Oh, man.
But yeah, so it's a very, very different feeling. And I like what you said about the idea of there having been sort of a cleansing because so much time has passed. Mm-hmm. There has been no cleansing here.
Indeed not. Yeah, this is a real spooky situation. First of all, it's spooky because there's a weirwood tree that's making Jon really creeped out. It's first of all the biggest one that he's ever seen. The trunk is nearly 8 feet wide. The branch is spreading so far that the entire village was shaded beneath their canopy. The size did not disturb him so much as the face, the mouth especially. No simple carved slash, but a jagged hollow, large enough to swallow a sheep.
Yeah. Like, I was having difficulty picturing a tree of this size. And then that sheep thing just really put it all together for me. I was like, oh, it's that big.
I love when somebody describes something with a very specific item. I'm in this group on Facebook called Weird Secondhand Finds That Need to Be Shared. And people put photos of wild stuff that they find in like thrift stores and whatnot. And the thing that is like a joke for some reason, I don't know how it started, but anytime somebody posts a photo, there's a banana in the picture for scale. It's always a banana. That's like, and if you don't have a banana in the photo, people in the comments are like, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble picturing the size of this. Can you please retake this photo with the banana? And I just love that. It's just such a strangely specific thing. And sometimes people will be like, yeah, I took a photo with the banana, but it's clearly like a toy banana, so it does not help with scale because you don't know how big the toy banana is either, or it's like a dog chew toy. It's very fun.
Oh, that's good stuff. There's nothing I like more than a commitment to a bit. You guys have heard me say that countless times.
That's true.
It's really, I love it so much.
So, yeah, and he's looking at it and he says, those are not sheep's bones, though, nor is that a sheep's skull in the ashes. And I was like, is that... Because the illustration of this tree... I'm going to send this to you because you're not going to like this. The illustration of this tree has there be bones in the mouth of the weirwood, which is not how it is described here.
I thought, isn't that where they get the skulls from? And then
is that where? And then maybe it says later.
Yeah,
it's not said here.
It's not said here. But then later, Mormont is looking at one, and then when he's done, he like throws it right back into the hole.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. When he brought the skull to Mormont, blah blah blah. Would that bones could talk. And
yeah, he tossed.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
He tossed the skull back into the mouth of the tree, where it landed with a puff of ash.
Got it. Well, did you get the? I texted it to you.
Hang on.
I'll probably use this as the image for this episode because certainly
I did
high impact.
I did not get it.
It says delivered. Well, it'll be there in a second. But yeah, so they're just trying to find out what the fuck could have happened here. And Mormont says something like, the wildlings burn their dead. We've always known that. Now I wish I'd asked them why when they were still around to ask. And Jon is like, I think we know why. And I was like, yeah, you do. Like, I can't tell if Mormont's saying, I wish I'd asked sooner so I knew this was a risk. or if he's genuinely not putting two and two together.
I assumed that he was saying it as if, like, God, I wish I had taken advantage of that shit when I had the chance. But John seems to be taking it like, what do you mean you don't understand? I know why. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I do think, like, even if he had asked why you burned their dead, if they were like, because they'll, rise from the dead, he would have just been like, all right, you fucking dum-dums. He would not have listened to them.
I do like the beginning of this where him and Mormont are looking at this tree, and they're both, because they both come from a tradition of the old gods, their reaction to this tree is a little bit different than some of the other people. Mm-hmm. And John says, somebody is like, look at that fucking face on that thing. And John is like, well, he says, my father believes that you couldn't lie in front of one of those trees because the gods would know when men are lying. And Mormont is like, me too. And it's just like a moment of them both like coming from a similar background that I enjoy.
Yep. So he gets sent to investigate this one particular house with Dolorous Ed.
I love that name.
Dolorous Ed is one of my, like, MVPs of the series. He is so, like, understated funny. And there's a character on the show that's clearly, like, meant to be Dolorous Ed, but they don't hit the same sort of tone with his character. Mm-hmm. And this bit I have to read because it's one of my favorites, and Owen and I joke about this all the time. Bad enough when the dead come walking. Now the old bear wants them talking as well. No good'll come of that, I'll warrant. And who's to say the bones wouldn't lie? Why should death make a man truthful, or even clever? The dead are likely dull fellows, full of tedious complaints. The ground's too cold. My gravestone should be larger. Why does he get more worms than I do? And then they go into this shitty house, and John calls it dismal. I was born in a house much like this, declared Dolorous Ed. Those were my enchanted years. Later I fell on hard times. I fucking love him so much.
He says something.
For my enchanted.
He says something later where they're basically talking about like how bad things could get or how bad something was. And he says something like, oh, probably worse than you could imagine. Well, I mean, I could imagine it, but...
Oh, God. He is just a delight. I love him so much. So, yeah, they're looking around, and, he mentions wanting to sleep in a bed again. And Thorin Smallwood, he is... saying, like, there were wildlings here only a year ago. And somebody else is like, yeah, and a year ago, Robert was king, and the realm was at peace. So, who cares? Is the implication.
When I read that, at first I was like, well, that was uncalled for. But then I was like, but you know what? He's fucking right, though. Why would he even say that? That was not helpful to be like, oh, it was like that a year ago.
It didn't used to be this way. No fucking shit. Insightful. Wow. Sherlock over here.
Oh, my God. They have this guy that's in the trees that they call Giant.
Oh, yeah.
We're just meeting him, I think, right? I don't remember him from before.
There's a few people mentioned here that I don't feel like we've heard. Malador Locke, who he says... One thing hasn't changed. Fewer wildlings means fewer worries. I won't mourn whatever's become of them. You idiot. This is bad news. Yeah. You don't know what happened. How can you even be this dense?
Because a lot of people are.
They are, I know.
Yeah. Oh, God. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah.
Don't
that whole tone. We all know what that tone is. So this guy Giant, who is like barely 5 feet tall, so like get it? Is
okay, Curly.
Is in the trees, and Mormont told him to get in the trees, like a page or two ago, right?
Yeah.
But
because he apparently is nimble and has good eyesight,
right?
I'm assuming.
So I read it, and it didn't register because it was gibberish. It didn't make any sense to me. Giant get to the top of the tree. For a second, I said, "Do they have giants?" that hasn't happened yet. That's much later. The story.
Much later, indeed. Yes.
And so I just like, well, it's gonna whatever. Like I'm just gonna keep reading. It's not a thing. So then, like a page later, we find out that it's this little guy who, as you say, is quite nimble and has pretty good eyesight. And he is scouting ahead from this tree. And he tells them that there's a lake up the way. And Mormont wants to make camp there instead of where they are right now in this nice little village.
Right.
And I guess I get it. He's like, we can go there because we could fish.
Right. Having a water source is probably good.
It's probably,
although,
right.
Is there no water source here? I have to assume if there's a village, they had a water source.
I don't understand why these people on these journeys can't just, like, take a minute.
You and I, ma'am, this is why we don't go on adventures. The very first stop, we're just like, hold on. What's the rush? They have a continental breakfast. I'm fine right here.
You would never get anywhere. Oh, God. Anyway, I just, that was my whole point, was just that why can't these fucking people just sit down for a minute?
Listen, I agree. Like I said, I wanted Daenerys to just chill. But, nope.
So, Mormont is also like, I need to get a letter out to let, Jesus Christ. What is his name?
Maester Aemon?
Aemon. Fucking fuck. And
I'm so mad at yourself for that one. It's okay.
The letter is Fourth Village, all empty. Wildlings are gone. I guess the little roll is very small. Like the little tiny
I didn't know what your commentary was going to be there, but I didn't expect it to just be like, wow, that was a little bit abrupt, don't you think?
In my mind, I picture one of those really tiny, tiny little post-it notes.
I think that's not, like, inaccurate, because it has to be tied to their little leg.
Yeah, we have seen ravens bring these scrolls, though, right? So you have to be economical with your words. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know, something about this just really sent me. I just feel like this little bird has to work really hard to get all the way back up to the wall.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so this is the fourth place that they found like this. Mm-hmm. I just don't know. Towards the end of this chapter, there's a moment where Mormont and Jon are talking about how Benjen, if he had found these series of villages empty, he would have kept going also in search of the answer, right? Like, what is going on? What's happening? So they're feeling like they're just kind of like following in his footsteps, and Mormont even promises that, like, we're going to figure out, like, what happened to him, and kind of promises that to Jon. But to my mind,
emulating the man who's disappeared is maybe a bad plan.
Am I craven?
I just, like, look, this just falls right in with, this is why we don't go on adventures. This is how so many adventures start. They're like, oh, so-and-so did such and such and they went missing. We have to go rescue them. And I'm like, they went missing in that direction. I'm not going anywhere fucking near there. Thanks. No.
It just, and there's more people coming to meet this contingent, right? Because doesn't Mormont say once somebody is coming, there's going to be even more of them, so they won't have to be like, they won't be outnumbered against whatever it is they think they're going after.
I'm trying to find that spot, but yeah.
It's like towards the end, right, when he's like promising Jon, that they're going to be a force to deal with. But yeah, this whole thing. So they're out beyond the wall. The wildlings are gone. These fucking villages are empty. Nobody is really having a serious conversation about the dead things that are coming back to life, as far as I'm concerned.
No.
I feel like we should be talking about that a lot.
I feel like that Jon and Mormont don't think anybody's going to believe them. It feels like they haven't told anybody else, other than maybe I think Jon's told Sam. Has he? I actually don't know.
I think he has.
Yeah, it's unclear, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were just like, yeah, we're not gonna.
Well, what did they tell everybody about, like, the fire and why Mormont had to change runes and what happened to Jon's hand?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know what story they use there. This is my question. Like, just how much does everybody know? But yeah, I agree, though, that should be talked about more. Although it is mentioned that as they keep encountering these emptied villages, everybody had headed out in a real jovial frame of mind. And the more places they hit, the more they're like sobering
they're getting
up.
Creeped out.
Yeah.
I love that it turns out that Sam, on the other hand, is getting like more and more comfortable with this whole thing, and Jon like remarks on that. I thought that was fantastic.
Sam is such a little weirdo.
He goes to see Sam to get this fucking letter out, and yeah, he's like, hey, I'm coming along. Mm-hmm. I'm not nearly as bad as I was. Like that first night, man, you should have seen me. I was a mess. Yeah. But now, and Jon is like, oh, you'll be a ranger, and he's like, I didn't say all of that.
Oh my god, I love it. He's like, oh, let me go and tell Mormont and he's like, don't you dare! Oh my god, no. Yeah, same energy, Sam. I feel you.
But yeah, and you know what else? Do you know why we love Sam? Because you know what he says? I had hoped we might stay the night in the village.
Oh, you said that with such energy.
I'm telling you, Sam knows what the fuck is going on in the world, y'all. He really does.
He does.
So Jon goes back to hook back up with Mormont after he's done with Jon, and sorry.
What is happening with you today? What's going on?
Just a lot of stuff's going on over here. There's really nothing going on. I knocked my lighter over. That's what that noise was.
Riveting. Okay.
So he goes around to meet up with Mormont, and Ghost comes out. And it turns out that he was been there the whole time. He's been out foraging, and there is not anything.
Yeah.
Like, the guys can't find anything. The Rangers aren't finding any game. Ghost isn't really finding anything. It is just bleak.
Mm-hmm. And Jon tries to be like, maybe we're just scaring off all the game. And I'm like, there's a few hundred of you. That's not enough for there to be no game for like miles in every direction. Like that wouldn't. No.
Somebody is like, yeah, they're frightened by something, all right.
Yep.
There's just this sense of unease that has taken over the party. Like you said, everybody is like feeling creeped out. But also he mentions like people's the nerves are really bad. Like everybody is testy. Nobody is laughing or making jokes. Like the whole party is just filled with tension.
Yeah.
And fear that no one will admit to, because they're all like brothers of the night watch. You can't admit that you're scared of something, Yeah. And so this party of men that are all like gassed up for fighting, they got all this weird tension and energy running through their bodies that's like fear-based. Yeah. They're tromping through the woods. going to face some sort of unknown, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
I feel like this can't end well for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a little bit from the show about how one of these excursions ends.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't remember if it's this one or if they go out twice. I can't remember. So I know eventually they do come across Craster and all that. I just don't remember exactly when that happens.
Right.
So
well, it'd be cool if somebody knew, but nobody knows. It's all a mystery. So yeah, it ends with Jon says, if my uncle found all these villages empty as well, he would have made it his purpose to learn why Lord Mormont finished for him, and it may well be someone or something did not want that known. Well, we'll be 300 when Corran joins us, Corran Halfhand. Whatever enemy waits out there will not find us so easy to deal with. We will find them, Jon, I promise you. Or they will find us, thought Jon. And that is the end of that chapter.
Or they will find us.
Dun, dun, dun.
I mean, I get it. I know we have to go out and do this. Right? We have to. Right?
Do you want me to convince you?
The world was going to, there was no other option. Like, this had to be undertaken. I guess.
Unconvinced, ladies and gentlemen.
I am unconvinced. But yeah, no, of course they have to do this because, one, you got to move the fucking story along. And two, you got to figure out what's happening. This is their neighborhood, right? They're responsible for this area, even though it is beyond the wall still. And they have men that have gone missing. I know that this is necessary, but I don't have to like it. And quite frankly, I don't care for it.
Yeah, same.
I just, could have stayed home. Don't have to be in the woods.
There's just a point at which, knowing that everything, look, just shoot somebody a text message and be like, yo, where's he at? The fact that everything has to be done by hand, literally.
Oh, it's the worst.
What a bummer.
Yeah, I don't know how people live like that. I don't even know how we made it this far. Humanity probably should have just given up.
It's wild.
When we had to go and do this
the
stuff.
The fucking
in person.
obstacles that we overcame, the buildings that we built, and we didn't have power tools. We didn't have cranes. But there's Notre Dame. There's the fucking pyramids. And I think about this all the time, just that's what happens when we don't have Facebook. But now we got Facebook, and so everything's going to be just square from now on. Nobody has time for this bullshit. I can't blame them. Do I want to slave over building a pyramid, or do I want to check out how many people liked my picture of my dinner? The latter, obviously. But I just really, I think a lot about when we had nothing but time other than trying to stay alive, which...
Well, we spent a lot of time trying to stay alive, and we weren't alive for very long.
That's true, too.
Don't forget.
True, too. Yeah.
So there was a real sense of urgency. You had to get shit done.
I can't relate.
Yeah, no. Now we fucking live to 80. Kind of nonsense is that?
Oh, God. I was listening to... Guys, if you don't listen to The Complete Guide to Everything, you're missing out. But, I was listening to this podcast today, one of their new ones, and there's two hosts, and Tim said something sometimes I think that all that's left of our lives is pain and disappointment. And Tom says, well, I have good news for you. Our lives are mostly over. I could not help laughing as I was wow, that is a optimistic spin on a very negative idea, I guess. Just be well, it'll be over soon. It's no big deal. I guess.
From his lips.
So anyway, is there anything else that you wanted to add about these 2 chapters before we wrap this one up?
No. I'm just ready for us to get wherever it is we're going.
Yeah, well, I have news for you about that.
Oh, no.
These books are a lot of not being the place that we want to be.
Somebody should have told me that before we started this
enterprise. Being like, I can't wait to get where we're going. You're going to be saying that for years. So,
sweet
just
Jesus.
get ready for that. That's the energy that the series carries, pretty much. So anyway, new patrons this week. We have Alexandria B, Albane Goran, Taylor Powers, and Calvitron. Dun, dun, dun. Sounds like a superhero. So welcome to all of you. Thank you all very much for becoming patrons. And this weekend, Rashawn and I are going to be doing our Unsober podcast. By the time this goes up, it will be the next day, because you and I are recording like very close to the release date on these episodes right now. And it'll be the next day, and the Unsober episode is going to be on running away. Inspired by Owen talking about houseboats on the recent Loki episode, which you can purchase for $1 on the website. But I just found the whole concept of houseboats like very compelling. And I think a lot of us are starting to think about, what to do when the water wars begin. And escaping on a boat sounds like that's how Fear the Walking Dead begins. And I thought that I was a strong contender for a place to be safe from zombies, personally. So that's the Unsober topic. Sentence did a lot of heavy lifting. Okay. Thank you all very much for listening. We love you so much. We'll see you next week. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Jon, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.